welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we move from Addie on to Samantha, a wealthy girl who lives in right outside New York City with her grandmother. She is an orphan. So here is Samantha. She is one of the original 3 dolls that came out was created by Pleasant Rawling. This is a newer version, obviously. My sister has a more original version, but this is Miss Samantha. So these are her stories. We also have a friend doll for Samantha. This is the first friend doll I have because I didn't have Felicity's. So this is Miss Nellie. She's a friend of Samantha's, and she's an Irish immigrant who works as a servant. So that is Miss Nellie O'Malley. And I will record a video of her story later. And this is Jip. This is another dog that is the dog that's part of the story that belongs to Cornelia, who is a friend of Samantha's and her uncle's. So, as with Kirsten's books, they have their pattern. We have Meet Samantha. This, just as a note, the first 3 books are written, the first 2 books are written by one author, book 3 is written by another one, and then the last books are written by Valerie Tripp, who is typical of American Girl. So this book specifically is written by Susan S. Adler. So in this story, we meet Samantha Parkington. She's 9 years old. She was orphaned when she was 5 when her parents died in a boating accident. So she lives with her grandmother, who she calls her Grand Mary. This is her mother's mother, so her maternal grandmother. You meet Nellie, who's currently working for the Rawlins, their next door neighbor. I believe she's working as a maid. You meet Uncle Guard, who's Samantha's uncle, so her mother's brother. His friend Cornelia, who is described as an old-fashioned beauty who has newfangled ideas. You meet Hawkins, who's the butler. His wife, Mrs. Hawkins, who's the cook. You meet Elsie, who's the grumpy maid. You meet Jessie, who's her grandmother's seamstress. And then you meet her next door neighbor, Eddie Rawlings. So in this story, Samantha, you meet Jessie, you meet all the cast of characters. You meet Nellie, who's working for Eddie's family next door. At some point, Jessie leaves and Samantha gets Nellie to help her figure out where she's going. Now, slavery is over at this time, but there's still separation. So what we would consider the Jim Crow laws. So I don't know. I think those had been taking place by now, by this point. Basically, it's a separation of blacks and whites. So I'm not entirely sure at this time period. But they live in the African Americans live in a different area of town. And Samantha finds out that Jessie had a baby, and by tradition and just kind of the rules of proper society, she had left her Samantha's grandmother's position, and Samantha begs her grandmother to hire Jessie back, which her grandmother does. And also around this time, Eddie gets Nellie fired. So Samantha also needs to rescue her friend. So that is book 1. So in book 2, I do believe this is also, which is Samantha Learns a Lesson, similar to Kirsten's, is also written by Susan Adler. So I'm trying to think the cast of characters. Yeah, the cast of characters is the same. In this story, Nellie has gotten a new job with somebody who's friends with Grand Mary, and she's just kind of a laundry. She's able to go to school. So, and she's afraid to go to school. Her sisters are also going to school because Nellie has 2 younger sisters, Bridget and, let me see if what her sisters' names are. This is Nellie. Let me see what our Samantha's sisters' names are. It's Bridget and, let's see if I can find Bridget and Jenny. So these are Nellie's little sisters. But Samantha starts helping teach Nellie because, of course, Bridget and Jessie are much younger. So they're picking up school rather quickly. But Samantha starts teaching Nellie about reading and writing. And then Samantha gets involved in a writing contest and starts writing about progress. And then when she reads it to Nellie, Nellie tells her about the cost of all this progress. And I do believe there's a picture here of, yeah. So Nellie's telling her about how Nellie herself and other children have worked in these threading factories where they're making the clothing and the fabric and stuff, and how children get hurt and they can get sick and it's hot and they're working for a lot of long hours. So she teaches her about the cost. And Samantha takes that on. And then I do believe, I'm trying to think, I think Nellie's parents die at the end of this story. Trying to think. Um, let's see. No, it's not showing because I know Samantha reads her. Yeah. So, but nonetheless, that is Samantha learns a lesson. So then we move on to Samantha's surprise. So this one is written by Maxine Rose Schur. Maybe pronouncing that long last name incorrectly. So in this story, Eddie isn't here anymore. We introduced Ida Dean, who's Samantha's friend, who's planning the best Christmas party ever. So this book is there's a tonal shift. So it almost feels like someone starts writing the story and then it's picked up by somebody else, and there's again the tone shifts. It is noticeable. It starts off with Samantha being all excited about going to this party, and then her grandmother tells her that Cornelia is coming for Christmas and she can't go. And Samantha's all upset, and then all of a sudden she's happy that her uncle and Cornelia are coming. But then it kind of switches from being upset about the party to being upset that everything is changing because her grandmother has to make everything fancy because Cornelia is coming for Christmas. So all her homemade decorations are being taken down. Miss Hawkins is too busy to do their traditional gingerbread house that they had planned. And so Samantha becomes upset about that. But then it turns out that Cornelia is very fun. They go sledding and she sees this fancy lady go laughing in the snow. Let me see if I can find that picture. Let's see. Yeah. So here's them laughing in the snow. And then, of course, Cornelia helps and Samantha build a gingerbread house together. And then at the end of the book, as is predictable, you can tell by reading these books, her Uncle Gard proposes to Cornelia. So that is her Christmas story. So then we move on to Happy Birthday, Samantha. So this is written by Valerie Tripp, as of the next 3 books. And you find her name all over the original American Girl books. She was the author, I think, of Felicity. And then she's also the author of Molly. So, but in this story, let me see what the cast of characters. So I think, yeah, Nellie's not in this one. Eddie's back. He puts salt in their homemade ice cream and destroys things. But you also meet Agnes and Agatha, who are Cornelia's younger sisters. Yes. It's in between this book and the Christmas book that Uncle Gard and Cornelia get married. So the twins are there for Samantha's birthday, and then the girls also go into the city to stay with Uncle Gard, and that's where we meet Jip here. So this is a little Cocker Spaniel puppy that belongs to Cornelia, and the girls take him to the park, and he gets loose, and he runs off, and they're chasing him, and he goes to another park where Cornelia is speaking in front of a bunch of suffragettes. Now, if you are unaware of what that is, these were women who were fighting for the women's right to vote. So this is 1904. So women don't get to the right to vote until 1912. So, and you also get Grandma Mary, who is on her way from somewhere else. No, I think she may run into the girls. I can't exactly remember. No, because I do end up going for ice cream after this. But Grandma Mary, who's been kind of against this, she doesn't understand it. But after hearing Cornelia talk about it, she's moved. And she changes her mind about women getting the right to vote. Mind you, the girls still get in trouble because they lost the dog and took him, let go of the leash when they were not supposed to. But that is book 4. And now we move on to book 5. So this is Samantha Saves the Day. This is when she goes up with her family, including the twins. Now, they twins do have a younger sister. It's just she's much, much younger. And I don't remember her name. Well, they'll get to that when we do the short stories. Because there is a wedding. In fact, there's a couple books about the wedding. Regardless. They're up at this big fancy cabin. And on a rainy day, they find a bunch of photographs of Samantha and her parents on this island that Samantha has never been to, across the river. And they also find her mother's sketchbook and I think her a few other things. So they decide to go there one day. But after they kind of reach the top in some of the places where there's been pictures and some of Samantha's mother's paintings, because her mother was an artist. It starts getting rainy and they're hiding and trying to get out from the rain, and their boat gets pulled away, and then they find, really introducing the other character here, which is Admiral Archibald Bemis, who is a gentleman friend of Grand Mary's. He's courting her. So, he wants her to marry him. And he comes to try to rescue the girls, but gets hurt. And you can't see her, but she's watching. That would be my child. She does not need to be on camera. But regardless, back to the story. Please ignore the giggling 6-year-old. Basically, they find Admiral Bemis. Samantha is able to rescue him. They're able to get, I think, whether it's their boat or his boat, they're able to get him into the boat, and Samantha's able to guide Agnes and Agatha, who are rowing, which is kind of what you see here, through the rapids back home. And then I do believe Grand Mary agrees to marry Uncle Bemis, or Admiral Bemis, at the end of that story. So that is book 5. This is book 6. So this is changes for Samantha. In this story, Samantha's grandmother has gotten married. So Samantha has now moved to live with Uncle Guard and her Aunt Cornelia. The twins, I don't think, are in this story. No, they are. But I don't know how much they're in the story a little bit. But, and for some reason, Jessie is back in this story. But regardless, sorry, noise and giggling. She hasn't heard from Nellie. She's trying to find Nellie. They can't find Nellie. They keep writing. Eventually she finds Nellie in an orphanage. She starts going back and trying to help Nellie. Then I'm trying to figure out what exactly happens. Runaways, because she finds her in this. So you see Nellie here, whose hair has been cut short and she's not in good shape. And then eventually, let's see, Samantha starts coming on. She's coming to visit them. And let's see. Yeah, so she's picked, there's a picture of her. They find out that Nellie's been picked to go out west on the orphan train. Now, the orphan train was a real thing. It was a way to get orphans out of the city and send them out to families out west. Sometimes they were adopted by good families. Sometimes they were just used as farm labor. But Nellie doesn't want to be taken away from Bridget and Jenny. She promised her parents she would take care of them. So Nellie and Samantha sneak all 3 of them out of the orphanage into Uncle Guard and Aunt Cornelia's attic, and Samantha's bringing them food, and they're hiding in the attic, and eventually they're found out, and the maid who Samantha doesn't really like, because she's kind of, this is Aunt Cornelia's maid. She's not a very nice person. Is very, very shocked when Uncle Gard and Cornelia decide to adopt all three girls. So that is how it ends. The story ends with Samantha getting Nellie as a sister along with Jenny and Bridget. So that is the end of that story. So if you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. Hopefully I will be filming without the giggling 6-year-old next time. And I will see you next time. Thank you.